one of the things that we talked about earlier with environmental organizations is how they view the pesticide industry, but we also wanted to have an opposing view about what the pesticide industry is doing.
Absolutely, and it's great to be here with you, Sarah, and what a great conference. It's been fantastic.
Well, thank you. So tell us a little bit more. I mean, I know that, so you've got a little bit more time under your belt at CropLife than the last time I spoke to you, but you have a great background in the environmental industry, both working as a partner at a law firm, Baker and Botts. You worked on crop protection issues, enforcement, environmental justice, litigation. So you're a nationally known author as well. Just tell us a little bit more about why this move now into CropLife seemed like a natural progression in your career.
Well, you know, I'm so glad to be back in the advocacy space. You know, I am trained as an environmental lawyer, and I was listening to Peter Lehner, who I know from who was talking about, I think he's with Environmental Defense now. He was the one up on the screen, Earth Justice. And, you know, he was talking about his background in environmental law and how he reflects on that. But, you know, when you stand for something and when you can really be a part of the conversation and when you're trying to solve hard problems, you know, that's the space that I think a lot of us like to be in. I mean, we don't want to be around hard problems, but a lot of what we have to do in agriculture is it's not easy. You know, we've got to really face issues that we've been talking about all day, whether it's internet connectivity, whether it's water shortages, whether it's climate, whether it's pest challenges. And, you know, when I was working in a private law firm, what I like to say is there were a lot of glass walls in the law firm, and I felt like I was behind a glass wall. You know, people hire a lawyer to solve a problem for them, and they keep you behind that glass wall, and they ask you to fix a little problem, but you don't really get to get out in front of that glass wall. So I'm really happy to be out in front of the wall, you know, with CropLife. You know, CropLife America is 90-plus-year-old organization, and we're not shy as an organization talking about pesticides, using the word pesticide, talking about why pesticides play a really important role in the sustainability conversation, which is surprising to many people. You know, I'll talk about it anywhere, and I have a colleague who likes to say, you know, sit next to me on an airplane and I'll tell you all about pesticides and try to convert everybody that we sit with about why there's a role for pesticides in growing, you know, the food that we enjoy in this country and around the world. So it's a great conversation to be a part of.
So help people that might not be familiar connect some of the dots in the sustainability story. I know that you've been doing a lot of work and a lot of messaging and trying to explain how this all fits into producing food more sustainably, being able to have cover crops, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, it's so interesting because our vocabulary, you know, changes all the time. And even your last panelist was talking about, you know, the words and what people hear and what they think. And so we've gone out and sat with folks and just, they're not agricultural people. They're just, you know, regular people, and said, when you hear this word, what do you think about? When you hear that word, what do you think about? And when we talked about sustainability and agriculture, the words that really worked for them kind of surprised us. And it's words that we've heard today: climate smart agriculture. And I heard another panelist say that he got in a little tussle with someone because he challenged them as like, what does it mean, right? But it really worked. People heard it and they're like, I like that, I like that. And so we said, well, what do you think about when you hear climate smart agriculture? What does it mean to you? And they said, well, it means innovative, it means productivity, resilience, better emissions, security in food, climate change, biodiversity. I mean, it resonated with them. They liked it. And yet, you know, we were surprised when we said things like, well, how about sustainable agriculture? And that's a term we use a lot in this room. We talk about it all the time. And people were like, no, that sounds like greenwashing to us. It sounds like you're trying to put something over on us. What do you mean sustainable agriculture? What is that? And so we were surprised. It doesn't mean we shouldn't use that term. It just means that the words don't really resound with people the way we thought they would. And so we're trying to kind of pivot towards climate smart agriculture, particularly in California, where there is such a conversation about climate and about ag.
There's also been a lot, and we've written quite a lot about it, and that is just pesticide regulations in California. Much different than at the federal level. So talk to us a little bit about some of the specific challenges that you're facing in California.
Well, it's so unique here. I mean, California has an unbelievable set of regulators that are frankly unmatched in number by any other state, right? And what happens is, EPA reviews a pesticide, they look at all the ecotox and human health studies, and they'll register it, and then the registrant has to go through all the states, right? And when they get to California, California does a whole lot more than other states. A lot of other states will just kind of look it over and figure, well, thank goodness EPA has done their job, and they don't have the resources to, go back through all the studies and really, really look it all over with a fine-tooth comb, and they rely on the EPA. But California almost redoes the work in many ways. And so what we're finding is that there is a significant delay between EPA approving a product and California going through its process. And so California growers are 3 to 5 years delayed in getting access to something that's been approved by EPA. The California review is taking on average 1,100 days. So that's long, and it's getting longer. And this is DPR's own data. So we're a little bit concerned this does put California growers at a disadvantage. They are not getting access to the newer tools that are being reviewed by EPA. And so we'd like to work with the regulators here in the state to see if we can accelerate that process and get the growers the tools they need.
So that fits with one of the questions that came in about where do biologicals go into this scenario, because the companies you represent are developing a lot of new, sometimes safer products, but if they can't get them approved, doesn't do much good. Plus, for a company, that's a lot of time to wait for a big investment.
It's a lot of time, and every month sometimes means you're losing a growing season, right? I mean, you might then, it's not just a month, it could be a year before you can put that product back out. So, this is a challenge at the federal level. EPA is understaffed and moving much more slowly than we'd like to see, and it's something we work on every day back in Washington where I am. But to see that we're having to work on this at the state level out here in California, it's a real challenge. I mean, we've done a couple things to try and tackle this. We're not kind of sitting still. We have formed some advocacy groups and partnerships that we hope can kind of put a little muscle into this.
Very good. So as kind of we wrap up our conversation, there was another question that came in, and I think I know the answer, but how would a small farmer become recognized or involved by CropLife America? It's not like you exactly have farmer members, but you work with a lot of farmers.
Oh, we sure do. I mean, yesterday, thanks to the companies that make the products, they do get to know a lot of growers. And of course, through our state-based coalitions like the Californians for Smart Pesticide Policy, we do get to know a lot of growers. Yesterday, I got to see almonds or almonds. I understand there's two ways to say it depending on where you go. I don't want to get in any pronunciation wars with people, but you can tell me at the reception which is the right way to say it. We saw grapes, we saw rice. It was just, actually it was beautiful. It really was beautiful, and it wasn't 110 degrees. But any grower, we really want to hear from them. We want to tell their story. One of the things we're doing is meeting with growers and interviewing them, asking them how they use pesticides, but also what other techniques they use on their farm. And how they integrate all that, whether they use a little bit of organic, a little bit of natural solutions, a little bit of how they manage the soil and how they may cultivate that soil, and then how they use pesticides. And we're taking videos. Sometimes they get a little nervous because these folks aren't, typically in front of the camera, right? But we get them, nice and relaxed a little bit, and then they just tell us what they do. We say, just tell us what you do, and we'll clip it, and we're going to use those little videos to tell that grower sustainability story when we meet with legislators. When someone's out in the field, they can't necessarily drive to Sacramento or fly to Washington, D.C., but we can show a little video about what it's all about. And so that's what we're doing. And then, we do have a grower advisory panel. And we are looking for some growers from some specialty crops. So you have a lot of specialty crops here in California. We've got a lot of Midwest, corn and soybean, but if we could get some, I've met some folks here, tomatoes, strawberries, almonds, if we could get some of those growers, we'd love to have them engage with us.
Oh, super. So if someone wants to do that engagement, you want them to email you or find you here in this room, or how do you have that outreach working right now?
Yeah, well, I'd say, certainly they can always email me, but Scott Dahlman, who's here in the room and works with our Western region, Scott, just email Scott Dahlman, and I think you can just Google him and find him, and and he's around all the time. And then if not, just go to the CropLife America website, and there's a little info box there, and just say I'd like to get in touch with someone about getting involved. And we've got a lot of tools in our toolbox. We want to share our resources, and our sustainability messaging is available for people, and just want to help tell the story.
Well, thank you, Alex. It's really a pleasure to have a conversation with you again.
Oh, it's great talking to you again, Sarah. And, since I started the job, I have to say, I read your stuff in the morning, at the midday, and then I listen to the afternoon drive. So I think you've become a regular for me.
We love to hear that.
Yes.
So, as does our team who's producing all of it. So
Good work.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.